The book we're here to talk about today is The Power of Giving, How Giving Back Enriches Us All. Heavy drug addiction, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're having seizures.
Yeah.
You attempted suicide.
Yeah.
And all this kind of happened within a 30-day period.
Yeah.
Just tell me, how do we get there? How did that happen? Books. They've saved us from the dark, set our souls on fire, and whispered truths we couldn't ignore. I'm Chris Collins, and this is Books That Changed My Life. And please welcome this week's guest, Fausto Castellanos.
I couldn't put a voice to my insecurity or my anxiety or what I was feeling. And that feeling of isolation and loneliness is the worst thing. I would wish somebody would just ask me how I was doing it.
So the big question, how did this change your life? So what do you think of the library?
Yeah, I want to spend the night here.
Oh, you're more than welcome. I love that in the front room you're going through. It's hard to get people to interact. People get intimidated and they don't want to look.
Yeah, because for me, books was my first father, I would say. I read my first book when I was 25. And so to me, anything in the book was like wisdom, every sentence. And so books saved my life. And that's why I'm always fascinated with them, because once you read it, you're never the same. Even if it's one sentence, there's something new that you know, and then you see the world differently.
What was that book at 25?
So the first book I ever read was So You Think You Can't? You Can. And it was just, I think, a book that popped up on Instagram, honestly, like an ad. And I just said, interesting, let me try that book.
And you ordered it?
And I just ordered it. And it was fascinating because this is when I was getting sober. And so the first chapter was, he was talking about he had an addiction. So I was like, whoa, I didn't know this guy had an addiction. And then it was like, he was sexually traumatized as a kid too. And I was like, whoa, that was me too. So I was like, what's happening? Do people talk about this stuff in books? I had no idea people would say that. And so it just hooked me. And then it said you should travel alone. My first flight, I've never been on a plane until I was 25. And I went to Oregon for a week and a half by myself with no plan, just because he said to try it. And it was the coolest experience of my life.
What did you learn on that experience?
I had an idea that I learned that I can figure things out by myself, that if I just ask someone for help, they're very compassionate to want to help you. If you're just honest, hey, I don't know how to get on a plane. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know where to eat. What should I do here? Just the kindness of people. And it gave me the ability to really think what do I like? It was kind of experimenting, because I've always been codependent my whole life, playing these characters to fit in. And so it really helped me understand, you do like the gym. You do like arts. You do like reading. You do like nature. You do like talking to people, but also you like to just chill. So it kind of just gave me an idea of who I was to kind of bring back with me.
That's great.
Yeah.
The book we're here to talk about today is The Power of Giving, How Giving Back Enriches Us All.
Yes.
When you give without expecting a return, you reap even more benefits.
Yes. And it's something I've learned, that when I give to people in love, I get this high. And so as an ex-addict, I'm seeking a high to escape my reality, but it hurts me at the end. And when I notice that when I give, I get that same high, but there's no downfall of it. It was this new addiction that I developed, and it was whoa, I think I understand what they mean. When I give, I feel happy, I feel fulfilled, I feel seen. And so that right there has been a big thing for me for giving that enriches my life.
Do you think you understand the architecture of why that happens? Why is it that you get that same, is it a dopamine hit or what is it?
Dopamine hit. I think the way I break it down, right, is the opposite of addiction is connection. Connection is oxytocin. So for me, this idea of giving is a spiritual act, and we call addiction a spiritual disease. So I think just the act of giving is the same dopamine and oxytocin release that drugs and alcohol gave me. And that's what I think was happening in that moment.
What is it in the brain that's making that happen?
I have no idea exactly.
Is it the connection?
I think so. Or
is it the selflessness?
I think it's just feeling important, feeling valued, feel like something about me is like I'm good enough. I have no idea. I think feeling empty my whole life and not good enough and disconnected from the world, this idea of giving for some reason just makes me feel seen and like I matter. And I've never felt that my whole life.
Even though the act of giving isn't about you, right?
Right. It can be in a selfish way, right?
Yeah, I guess I'm talking about it in the unselfish way.
Yeah.
But what is the selfish way?
I would say the selfish way is when you're giving and you expect something.
So it's a ransom note.
Yeah. And sometimes we do it unconsciously, you know, because like for me as a kid, I developed giving not in a bad way, but I don't think I gave wisely. I just learned that when I give, people like me. But see, at that point, it was more of like I needed to give to feel important versus I want to give. And that was the balance that I had to figure out in my journey. Instead of giving out of fear, to give out of love.
Yeah. We may only be one person in the world, but we may be the world to one person.
Yeah. For that is everything to me. Because feeling alone my whole life, feeling like I couldn't talk about what I went through as a kid, you know, from being molested and addicted and tried killing myself multiple times. Dad's not around. Mom has cancer, bullied. You know, I couldn't put a voice to my insecurity or my anxiety or what I was feeling. And that feeling of isolation and loneliness is the worst thing. And I would wish somebody would just ask me how I was doing and care. And because I know that pain, I understand that when someone needs help, I'm going to focus, I'm going to be present, and I'm going to care. Nothing matters but you. And we're going to find out how can I help you. And I've learned that one conversation can lead to a revelation for somebody. And that's why I think it's so important to give that to someone.
We may only be one person in the world, but we may be the world to one person.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. What is so heavy drug addiction, right? Mm-hmm. You're having seizures.
Yeah.
You attempted suicide a bunch of times, and all this kind of happened within a 30-day period.
Yeah.
Just tell me, how do we get there? How did that happen?
My addiction started at 13. Started very innocently, right? Just
what was it?
Alcohol. For me back then, it was like the first time I felt comfortable in my skin. So as a kid, not having any father figure, I was kind of trying to just watch what the older guys were doing. That was like my guidance. And I realized I had a lot of bad, figures in my life. So alcohol made me feel comfortable. I was able to talk to girls. I was able to talk to people. I didn't have anxiety. So that's how it started. And so curiosity sparked, right? Weed, ecstasy, cocaine, meth. That's when things got dark.
Where were you getting the alcohol from?
Stealing it.
Stealing it from the store or where?
Our friends' parents.
And was it every day? That
was the idea, right? How do we get this every day? Because in 9th grade, I got out of school because I faked being crazy and they sent me the psych ward. And so then when I got out, they said you can do independent studies. And that was 9th grade. So I never had to go to school. So when I drank during that time, the first time, I was like, I want to drink as much as I can and I can get away with it because dad's not in the picture, mom's gullible, and I don't have to go to school so I won't get caught. Whenever we can, whether stealing it from a store, a friend's like, hey, my mom has alcohol in the cabinet, or we would ask a homeless person like, hey, we'll give you money and buy you alcohol if you buy us alcohol. And so then that was marijuana next. I hated it. And
who introduced you to marijuana?
The same group of people. It was just, they said, do you smoke? I lied. Of course I smoke. Hit it, hated it.
What did you hate about it?
It made me paranoid. I was that person. Like I was already self-conscious, so it just made me worse. And so
you didn't like the feeling.
I hated it. I would just smoke it to fit in, but I hated it. And so did that for a while. And then that same year, this is still 9th grade, I saw a YouTube video when YouTube came out on ecstasy. And I was just like, man, like, I want that pill. These people are happy, it's love, and they're dancing. Sure enough, some way, my buddy was like, hey, have you ever done ecstasy? And I was like, I want to try that. Loved it. How do I do this every day? So I was doing it every day. And then at that point, I moved to LA and my cousin had a male figure finally, skateboarded, partied. Cool, that's what I want to do. But then he got into the gang life. So crack comes in the picture. I try it, didn't like it. Coke, didn't really understand it at that point. I was kind of like, it's kind of boring. And then meth was introduced to me. And that took over. I was like,
meth.
It was like, whoa, I want more of this.
What does meth feel like?
Meth feels like, okay, so let's say our dopamine levels are at 100% max you can get. It's like times in that by like 1 million. You know, it's a crazy feeling. Like you just feel so good. It's insane. Like it's hard to put into words, but it's the best feeling in the world you can ever have. And so that's why you want more of it.
So how old are you when you try meth for the first time?
14.
Who introduces you to it? Your cousin?
I wouldn't say my cousin did. It was a family friend. My cousin was sitting in the same section, and my cousin was like, "Don't do it."
Oh, he said not to.
Yeah. But the family friend is like, "Come on," and I wanted to. You know, I was like, "Come on, I want to hit it. I just want to fit in." And so I remember the first time I smoked it, I felt the best I've ever felt in my life. Like I was on top of the world. I mean, it's insane. Just imagine the greatest feeling you can ever experience in the world times a million. And that's why it makes sense why people get hooked.
Yeah.
So my 14-year-old brain's like, well, I want to do this all the time. And remember, I'm not in school, so I could get away with it. But then what ended up happening was it's not something you could smoke every day. Because when I would take one hit, I'm up for 3 days. I wasn't used to that. And so I start going like a little crazy in my head. I'm like, I'm not sleeping. I'm seeing shadow people. I'm hearing voices. So I didn't really like it, but I still wanted to do it. But what ended up happening was I got molested for 6 months by an older man that was a family friend.
How old were you?
14.
14?
Yeah, and that was on meth.
So wait, are you in LA at this point?
I'm in LA at this point.
And are you bouncing from couch to couch, or who are you living
I'm staying with my aunt.
Okay.
Me and my mom. So me and my mom lived in OC, and then we moved at the family house in Pico Rivera. And so we were there. And that's
so he's in that house.
He's the neighbor.
He's the neighbor.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I got sexually abused when I was 7 by a boy already. So my brain, when it was happening to me again on meth, went like, I guess this is just my life. I get molested. That's how my brain processed it. But again, I thought it was my fault when I was a kid because the kid that molested me bullied me when I was 7, right after. So I was like, I must have did something wrong. He did something to me, was nice, and then he bullied me the next day. So my brain comprehended it like I did something wrong. So when it happened to me when I was 14 again, it was like, oh man, maybe did I do something to ask for this? And meth is a very sexual drug. So when you're on it, it'll make you do crazy stuff sexually. There's always this joke that like people that are straight, when you smoke it, now they're not straight no more. It's like a joke that they say because what it does. So as a 14-year-old kid on meth, this guy's touching me. It feels right, but now I know just because it felt right doesn't mean it's right. You know, it's like a 40-year age gap, 14, so you know it's wrong. But my brain thought it was my fault. So I said, no one can know. I have to get out of the situation. So luckily we moved back to OC. I got away from it. And then my drug addiction from 14 to 18 was just a party guy, right? Drinking, and that's it, and ecstasy. I was like, I'm not touching meth. I don't like weed. Play that character, the party guy. And then I would get into a relationship, and a relationship would make me think that if a woman likes me, then I didn't get molested by a guy. That was how my brain connected it. So I'd get hooked.
How does that work?
So when I got molested as a kid and then it happened as a teenager, it made me question my sexuality. You know, it made me be like, and you know, back then was different. This is back in 1998, so it was different.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was very taboo.
So anytime my friends would be like, "Oh, you're acting like a faggot," I'm like, do they know what happened to me? That's how as a kid, because again, I can't say nothing. So I would get hooked into the dating world in middle school when it started. And I was like, if a girl's with me, that means it didn't happen to me. My brain would say that because a girl likes me. Okay. And I like a girl. So, but when a girl would break up with me innocently, right? Innocent breakup. But my brain would say, maybe she knows I was molested. So then I would try to change my style, become a punk rocker, get a punk rock girlfriend. She breaks up with me. I'm like, oh my gosh, she knows too. I got it. Skateboarder. Get a girlfriend. She breaks out with me. She must know. So then 14, it happens again. Then that's why I play that party guy now, because now I have drugs and alcohol. I have to numb. So then at 18, I meet a girl again, and I kind of calm down. I'm like, okay, I think I'm fixed. She breaks out with me at 21. I think she knows. So then I do the GQ model look. I become a bartender. I become a DJ, get tattoos everywhere, piercings, thinking it's to make me manly. Get a girlfriend. I'm like, I'm fixed. She breaks out with me at 25. And then this is where we'll go into the seizures and all that. So then at 25, when she breaks out with me, in my head, I'm like, I can't handle this no more. I feel like every girl knows what happened to me. Like, I don't know why this is happening. And so I was mad at this concept of God. I was like depressed. I wanted to kill myself. And that's why I attempted by taking a bunch of pills, tried hanging myself. Just wanted to die. And the seizures were happening because I was doing about an ounce of cocaine a day, which is crazy. And drinking probably 60 to 100 beers.
How are you affording all that?
The place that I worked at, I was a bartender. So what I would do for one is, hey, can I take some alcohol home when we close? Put on my tab. Yeah, go for it. That's the bar life. So I never had to pay for it. And then the cocaine would come just from, I was a server and a bartender, my tips. So, whatever the tips were, whatever I made that night, I would spend it. Obviously I'm broke at this point because all my money's going to drugs. But
Are you still living at home?
Yeah, so I'm taking care of my mom at this point. She has cancer. So my mom has cancer at this point. And so I'm paying the bills, right? So it's like, I'm like literally going to payday loans, multiple. I learned that if you go to a payday loan in a different city, they don't know you're borrowing money. So I literally go to multiple of them a day just to try to pay rent because I was spending my money. But it started getting to the point where I had no more payday loans to go to. They're stacking up. And so suicidal, the seizures were happening because I was doing so much cocaine that my brain was just, I don't know if it was zapping or something, and I would have a seizure. And I learned that when it's coming on, I get a copper taste. So I'd be like in my room, out of my mind, and be like, okay, seizure's coming. Okay, pillows, move all the metal or anything that's gonna hurt me. All right, let me try drinking some Tito's alcohol, maybe this will cancel it. Nope, it's coming. Let me lay down. Seize out, grand mal seizure, out for like 30 minutes. Come to, my memory comes back. I realize what happened. I look around. Okay, nobody heard. Let me drink some more alcohol. And if I down a lot of alcohol, it would make me come back to normal. And so I learned that anytime I get the copper taste, I try to down a bunch of Tito's vodka to hopefully cancel it out. Sometimes it would work, but most of the time it didn't. But I was so out of my mind, I didn't care. I would just keep on going and keep on going. So sometimes I would have 5 a day. And so that's why in that month, it was about 30 seizures that month. And it got bad because I went to work and people were like, what happened to you? I'm like, what are you talking about? They go look in a mirror. My whole face was bruised and swollen shut, and I don't remember. So I must have had a seizure so bad that I don't remember having a seizure. And I guess I must have fell on a dumbbell in my room that I have, not remember it at all. And so that's when my job pulled me aside, and they're like, we're gonna fire you. And then I broke down to them. I'm a drug addict, I'm an alcoholic, this is what's happening. My other job pulled me aside, because I had 3 jobs. We're gonna fire you. I'm a drug addict, I'm an alcoholic, told my other job. And so they all said, sign a contract. If you drink one more time, you're fired. If anybody at work gives you a drink, they're fired. So that was my accountability for work. And so then after they knew, I reached out to a buddy of mine that was a magician, street magician, because I love magic. And he went to prison for making Porsche cars disappear and stealing credit cards from people doing sleight of hand. And so to me, that's fascinating because I love David Blaine stuff. And so he was one person I knew that was in prison, got out, changed his life, and was like a good man. And so I said, hey, dude, like, I need help. And I told him everything I just told you right now for the first time to anybody about my trauma and everything. And he read scripture to me, and it was that God gives the strongest battles to his strongest warriors. And so I had a perception change for the first time in 25 years of like, you telling me I was molested, beaten, bullied, no dad, mom's cancer, insecure, think I'm stupid, suicidal, because I was strong enough to go through that, to help other people grow through that. And literally I felt that high that drugs gave me. And I was like, what's this feeling? I feel happy. I was like, is this the God thing? I don't know what this is, And so I just said, whatever this feeling is, I want more of it. And so I watched a show called Rescue Me where the fireman went to AA. And I was like, oh, I think I'm supposed to go to AA. Like, that's where this guy goes. So let me just look it up. Oh, one in Fullerton. Okay. I guess I'm going to go there tomorrow. And the day before I went on Facebook and Instagram and posted everything I just told you to the public. Well, first, some people were like, you liar, you want attention. But then I had people from like Australia and Japan hit me up on DMs like, thank you for sharing that. I've been through that, never talked about it. And I went, whoa, this is crazy. Maybe there is purpose to my pain. And then the next day I go to the meeting. I go up on the podium where you share. I'm a newcomer. I share everything I just told you. And this man came up to me after and said, me too, and gave me a hug. And that's when I knew, holy crap, I'm right where I need to be.
Thank you.
And there's purpose to my pain.
How do you get off of the alcohol and the drugs? Mm-hmm. Like clearly, well, your employers giving you that ultimatum probably did something, but how do you actually do it?
Yeah, so obviously, there's many factors, right? So it's, thank God they love me that much, right, to do that for me. My mom's cancer was so bad. She was on chemo really bad, like stage 4, ball throwing up. And a part of me was like, dude, if I don't figure out my addiction, I can't afford to pay for the rent for her to have a roof over her head. And I have a little sister. It's kind of like, there's like that reality. If I don't get this, this is what's going to happen. So those factors help kind of bring light. And it was AA that saved my life, working a 12-step program, which was, you go in there, community, you have a 12-step you work through to help you work through it. And what it does is you accept you have a problem, you find a higher power that, works for you. And then you do an inventory, which is a resentment inventory, a fear inventory, a relationship one, and then your defects of character. So it helps you look at why you drink and why you use, because it's escape your reality. And that's where you get to look at the resentments towards, my abuser, my dad, my exes, God, bullies. And then you got to find a way to forgive it all, because your lack of forgiveness will lead to a relapse. So doing that cleans up everything inside of me. And then looking at my relationship patterns of, why I'm in toxic relationships all the time to help me forgive my exes. And then you get to a point where you have to make amends to the people I've hurt. Clean up that part, because I've hurt a lot of people, whether it was intentional or not. And then the final step, which what this book's about, is now you got to give back if you want to be clean and sober for the rest of your life. Go help out another addict and alcoholic. That's true love. There's no money exchange, and you're going out of your way to sacrifice your time. But that right there will keep you sober.
How is vulnerability a superpower? And did vulnerability play a part in you accepting the fact that you needed to change?
So I would say for me, the reason why I say vulnerability is a superpower is because I love Eminem, the rapper. I always go, why was Eminem so successful? That guy was radically vulnerable. He said everything so that nobody can say anything about him. It's taking back your power. And vulnerability creates relatability, and relatability creates connectability. So I was like, well, the more vulnerable I am about myself, the more connected I feel with people. And then I noticed that my vulnerability gives people permission to be vulnerable, which causes healing. So I started to kind of notice that in my life when I was vulnerable. And I started radically vulnerable because, like I told you, when I had that emotional, spiritual experience, I posted it all on Facebook and Instagram. Like, who posts that stuff? And so I just started off like that. And it's funny because in AA, they say, don't do that. It's supposed to be an anonymous group. But I had no idea. And so I went the opposite route from the beginning. And so just being vulnerable on social media, I documented my whole journey on social media every day and just sharing it, to the point where I made a t-shirt that said, I was sexually abused, addicted, and suicidal. You're not alone, me too. And I would just wear that in public in case people are behind me. And some people would tap my shoulder, go, can we talk? Some people obviously would be like, you shouldn't do that, it's too much. But it was just something that I embodied. And even today, people always say, you're the most vulnerable person we know. It's almost uncomfortable, but don't stop, because it's helping people. And that's why a lot of like high profile people that I work with, it's that vulnerability is why they want to work with me. Because they go, I can't talk about it in public, but you talk about it in the public. I wish I can do that, but can we at least talk about it? I go, yeah. So it's a very empowering thing.
Would you say vulnerability is also truth?
I would say it can be, right? I think if you're being honest with your vulnerability, then it's truth of who you are and what you do and what you've been through. But I also think some people can be vulnerable in the wrong ways, for attention, maybe attention, or lying or complaining.
Is that vulnerability or is that manipulation?
Well, I would say manipulation then, yeah. That'd be the
I guess I'm asking it in the purest form.
Yeah, I would say it's truth then. Because vulnerability is like, hey, Chris, nice to meet you. Just want to let you know, like, I'm very nervous right now. I have social anxiety, and I got ADHD, so I might be all over the place. You might ask me about my relationship. How is it? I'm like, I struggle a lot. I still this, and that. Just me being honest with you. Instead of putting up this front of like, I never think about drinking. My relationship's perfect. I know everything, but I have no problems because I'm connected to God, or I read this book. To me, I'm like, that's just, if anything, that disconnects me from people and makes me feel uncomfortable when people are like that, almost narcissistic.
Do you feel like vulnerability can be a gift in the sense that, like you kind of described that when you were honest about where you were at, it took away some of the shame for other people, and then they felt like, oh, I'm not alone.
Yeah, and that's the power in it. It's you'd be surprised how many people think they're alone in their suffering. because they're programmed due to their parents or caregivers, right, to don't talk about it. And it's so strong in their psyche where they won't. And not a lot of people are walking around saying what I'm saying just day to day. So when you can be that person for somebody, you might be the first person that allowed them to actually open up.
How much of addiction is shame? When you feel alone and you don't feel like there's anybody you can talk to, like
When it comes
how
to
much of the 12-step process is dealing with the shame? Because isn't that something that keeps you there sometimes? Or for some people, doesn't the shame keep them there?
Yeah, it's a lot of shame and a lot of guilt. I think a lot of the shame comes from society standards of what an addict is. You hear the word addict and they're like, screw those people. Someone with cancer, oh, poor person. So shame's already built on this word of being an addict because a lot of people think it's a choice and it's not. So people belittle us, they talk down on us. And so shame is kind of born with that. And because of that, what we do in our addiction can be pretty shameful. Robbing our parents, stealing their cars, screwing our partner's sisters, just taking your little sister's financial aid money. There's so much you do, hurt people. So there's a lot of shame with what we're doing. And if we're not aware of, it's not us that's doing that. It's the trauma that we've been through that's causing us to survive. And this is what happens because it's all we know. So when they don't know that, that's why there's a lot of shame, because it's like, if you know what I did, trust me, you would hate me. But then when you realize, hey, you were doing the best you could with what you knew, and then you listen about their childhood, it's like your dad beat you, locked you in a closet, and freaking would burn your face with cigarettes. Like, no wonder why you fight and beat up people. It's like, it's not your fault. That was not right. You had a messed up childhood. And so that's why there's a lot of shame. So when they hear stuff like that, it helps to bring them out of the shame to understand.
So you call yourself a hope dealer.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
You know what a drug dealer is, obviously, right?
Yeah, well, I was thinking like Rick Ross, the freeway Rick Ross, the OG to LA Rick Ross.
So as a hope dealer, it's kind of just like, I just deal hope. Hope is free. I'm the guy that you talk to and you'll be hopeful. I'm the guy that speaks at an event when the people need hope. So everywhere I go, I just ooze hope. And that's why people gave me that term, the hope dealer. So I just kind of embodied it and took it on. And now everybody in that community knows me as that.
And is that always having a positive perspective?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just this idea that like anything is possible. And no matter what you've been through, you can overcome it. And and don't feel like you've wasted your life, because even the defects of character that you have can be used for good. So I tell people, yeah, you're good at manipulating back then, but now you're going to be a really good motivational speaker. Yeah, you're a people pleaser, but now you'll be a good therapist. Yeah, you're a drug dealer. Now you'll be a good CEO. So it's always just about trying to keep people in a positive light to let them know anything is possible. And that's just what I want people to get.
Yeah, that's rare.
Yeah.
So in that moment where you're trying to dig yourself out and your back is against the wall, you need to pay rent.
Mm-hmm.
Your mom has cancer. Were you doing it for your mom and your sister, or were you doing it for yourself?
Getting sober. So those are factors that made me really probably get motivated, but it was for myself. Because if I'm not doing it for myself, I'm not going to do it for anybody. It was for myself because I have never felt so happy in my life that day I walked into that AA meeting. For me, that's just my story. Because I think my whole life I've always been a giver, and I've always loved people, and I've always wanted to help people. And so walking into that room, being able to just be like, hey, you need to help people. I'm like, really? I know how to do that. That's cool. And then just being myself, sharing my story, and people were looking at me like, whoa, who are you? How do you share that stuff? I got 5 years sobriety. I can't even share that. And you have 2 days sober. So you know what I mean? It was exciting for me. It was like, I felt like I was in a movie. I really did. I really felt like, whoa, if this is the God stuff, or like, is this like, I don't know what's happening right now, but I love it. So for me, it was easy. Some people struggle. I loved it. And I don't know if it's because I've always wanted to be the center of attention. And so it kind of fueled that character trait of mine. Like, ooh, look, everyone's looking at me and I'm helping people. And yeah, Fausto, you're the man. So I'm pretty sure that had a lot to do with it. But it was the best thing that I could have used that part of me for.
Did you ever date anybody in AA?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why do they say not to do that?
So they say the first year, don't date. It's not a rule in the book that we read, but it's kind of like wisdom, because we're broken. And how can you take care of someone else when you can't even take care of you? And a lot of people will relapse when they date too early, because you date a broken person and then that broken person doesn't want to be with you no more. You're like, oh my gosh, my life is over. Or you stop working on yourself because you're like, well, me and my girlfriend are going to meetings together. Oh, look, we're reading the book together. And then all of a sudden your higher power becomes your partner instead of something bigger than yourself. Most people are codependent. That's like the next thing to work on. So that's what they say, don't. So I did that because I did celibacy for 8 months because I knew I was codependent. So I took it serious. But then I was like, God, I want a wife. I'm lonely. And so I could be delusional in my thinking. And so I see a girl in a meeting that I've never seen before. So I'm like, oh, that must be the one because I've never seen her. And so I get all in my seat like this. And I'm like, I want to share because I got to impress her. So I share my story, but a lying version of it. I call it the Hollywood version. Spice it up, you know?
Like you saved somebody's life and jumped in front of a car.
Like that, you know what I mean?
Kid.
Like my rock bottom was this dark night. And I remember I was driving this car about 120 miles per hour down Imperial Highway. And all of a sudden I hear a word say, Fausto. I go, what? And I crashed my car. You know what I mean? Just lie. Because I'm like, I want the girl to be like, because I'm the guy, if a girl looks at me, I'm like, I think she likes me. You know? So I'm like, I got to win this. Because that's my future ex-wife sitting there, right? And so I ended up, talking to this girl. A week later, she's living with me. My sponsor, I'm not telling my sponsor because he's going to tell me not to. And then a month later, I call him. I made a mistake. She's crazy. What do I do? He goes, I told you. And I've never broken up with a girl at this point. They break out with me. You know what I mean? Because I don't leave. I could get cheated on and stay. That's how bad I was. So she was getting baptized. And I was like, this must be the right moment to break up with her. As soon as she got out the water, I don't want to be with you no more. And that's how I did my first breakup in that first year. It probably wasn't the best way to do it. But
what did she say?
Oh, she hates me till this day. I try making amends. I get it. But I didn't know how to do it any other way. And so
what made her crazy? Like, what was she doing that you were like, oh yeah, she's crazy?
So she just wasn't working a program in AA like I was, and I was serious about it.
Was she still drinking?
She wasn't drinking or anything, but when you could be in AA but not working your steps. And because of that, there's like untreated mental health problems. It was borderline, bipolar, manic depressive. And I said, hey, I need to go to a meeting. Like, hey, I'm going to the gym. Like, I'm still an independent person. I've always been independent. I have 3 jobs and very social. So I can't have the one that's like, where are you going? Stay home with me. Hey, I need a ride. I'm like, I ain't picking you up from work. Like, I'm at work. You know what I mean? So it wasn't independent enough or mature enough for me at that point. And I knew at that point, if I stay in this, I'll relapse. So that's why I had to get out of it. I learned my lesson that first year from not dating, but I made more mistakes after.
I know. I always hear that you shouldn't date. And I always wonder because, like, it's probably pretty easy to pick up girls. And
oh, yeah. I mean, think about it. Like,
they're vulnerable.
I have sponsees right now that have 5, 6, 7 years sobriety. And I actually had a phone call before here. Fausto, I made a mistake. She's crazy. I got her pregnant. She's screaming at me, I'm not pregnant. And I'm like, she's like, I know she went to the psych ward a couple times, but I didn't think it'd be a problem. I'm like, dude, I told you.
Oh my gosh.
And so it's that because you have these vulnerable people, and if you have a little bit of time, you kind of feel like, I feel like I'm not superior, but I feel like I'm kind of above, not in a bad way, but like, I can provide. But it's because they're so scared to date someone outside, because outside you're going to feel less than, because you're still learning how to be an adult. So that's why it's very hard in that place. And sex is the next high. It's like cocaine. So obviously you want to escape again your reality and go have sex with people because it's
intoxicating.
Yeah.
To achieve non-attachment, you must train your mind to understand that you can't control the outcome of all situations and events. You can still care about, struggle to achieve, and hope for a certain outcome, but whether you get what you want or not, you realize it's still okay.
Yeah. So I love this saying. It's have no expectations, but high hope. And it's that idea of like, be hopeful. Like, I hope that the person I'm married to is kind and giving to me if I'm kind and giving to her, right? I don't expect her to, but I would hope. And that's why I'm still wise to pick someone who's a giver. Or like when you're helping people, it should never be about getting something out of it. Because if you want to get something out of it, you're going to be disappointed. Because not everybody's going to meet your needs. Not everybody should. Not everybody can. And I'm of the belief of when I give, whether it's you giving back to me or something else, something will come back. I've seen it happen a million times in my life where you just give and give and give, and things will come back tenfold.
In his book, Leadership from Within, Peter Bender points out that every person possesses the seed of greatness. It takes only 2 actions to become a leader: develop the necessary skill, overcome your greatest barrier and fear.
What does that mean to you?
I don't agree. I wrote a book on leadership.
Yeah.
It's very simplistic. Being a leader is way harder than that.
Yeah, no, it is hard.
It's not 2 things, it's 50 things.
Yeah. That's why I like John C. Maxwell stuff, like the 25 laws and all that stuff. Talks about, because there's so many components, I think, to leadership. What would be like your top 3 traits that a leader should have from your perspective?
I think that you have to do a bunch of stuff before you get to even the doorstep of becoming a leader. So you kind of have to work on yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
The top one in regards to that is personal agency. Having an internal locus of control where you don't externalize blame to luck, fate, God, your parents, your childhood, whatever it is. And you fundamentally have developed a belief system that your actions, your behavior, the attitude, the emotions, the energy, work ethic, charisma is what is going to determine your success. And so, when you're in a situation and things don't go the way that you want, you don't go, oh, well, they're idiots or whatever.
Or the devil did that to me.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of work for somebody to develop that. What really is the definition of leadership is controlling the thoughts and behaviors of others. If you can't control your own, that personal agency is a different kind of thing. It's really hard to retrain your mind not to externalize control, not to blame outside stuff. Because what happens invariably, like, let's say you see somebody on the street, and I'm a Seahawks fan, and I see somebody in a 49ers get up or whatever, and they do something I don't like. It's easy for me to go, oh yeah, it's because they're 49er fans, they're all idiots. And I get a hit of dopamine,
Right.
and then they're really literally dead to you at that point. Once you get that dopamine, and your body rewards you to judge. It's programmed into us unconsciously to conserve energy. And so we love to judge, but when you're judging, you're externalizing control and you're not thinking through something.
So I always say, like, negativity's contagious and gossip's a high. Like you said, it's like in that moment, it's like a false sense of connection and your superiority in that moment, whatever it is, right? But like you said, right, it's like at the end of the day, it's always on you, like that extreme ownership. Like, how did we get here? Let's look back. Oh, because you ignored this, you ignored that, you didn't do this. That's why you're here. Let's look at things more logically. So yeah, I agree with you with that, is like really looking at yourself, which is a lot. Like I need to look at this and see what I can do better instead of always blaming people, which you said is hard. Everyone wants to blame. It's easier. I do this because of you.
90% of people are external in one or more aspects of their life, where they externalize control to some sort of fate or God or something.
If you want to do anything in life, you got to become that person to make that happen. Simple as that. Whatever you want to do doesn't really matter, but you got to become that thing to handle it. It's like the reason why you don't have it is because you don't have the character to even get that.
Fear of success is way more dangerous than fear of failure.
Well, I always tell people, like, you have a fear of success because what comes with it is what responsibility that maybe you're not ready for, or you can handle. You think you can. It's always like the two sides of it. Like, I want to be a billionaire. I'm like, why? Like, so do you know what that journey looks like to get there? And then they look and they're like, oh, I don't want to do that. So you don't want to be a billionaire. So let's look back. What do you want to actually do to get there?
A lot of that comes down to self-esteem. Like, most people have learned helplessness. Their default setting is to comply and just follow. Belonging and meaning is more important to them than actually whatever the truth is, right?
Yeah.
They'd rather fit in. COVID was a good example of that. Everybody just sort of blindly towed the line and did the thing. And
it's funny. I did like the complete opposite that year. I was trying to say it to people sometimes because they take it personal. I was like, that was the best year of my life. I'm like, I got a brand new car for cheap. I got a new place in Irvine. My job didn't shut down. And we had parties every week still because everyone was scared. So we're like, well, we're going to be the one house that we allow people to come in and have fun and heal. But a lot of people obviously would see that. How dare you do that? They come in with the religion. They come in with this. I'm like, ah.
You were dealing in hope.
Yeah. Right.
I like it. Strong leaders give. The corporate world uses the term servant leader. This may sound like a misnomer, but it's not. The best leaders are servants, wanting to serve and give. I think that's the biggest bunch of that I've ever heard in my life. Servant leader is an oxymoron.
Because I know for me, like when I look at servant leader, I kind of, the way I, right, because we all can take in things differently. I just look at it as like, be about the people. That's how I just take it simply like that. Like I'm about the people. I reach for a heart before I ask for the hand. Just care about people instead of just caring about numbers in a sense.
That's not leadership, though. Leadership is going after a mission and then recruiting the right people that help serve the mission. The way that this is worded is you would put the people before the mission.
Okay, so I don't look at it like that though. But I guess if you look at it like that, yeah. Because I think, yeah, you got to have a mission. What's the mission, right? The leader's job is what's the mission to keep us on track, right? So we know where we're going, right? Create the vision, stuff like that. And then, like you said, right, have the right people. And the leader's speaking life into the right people so we can all go towards that mission.
Yeah, and this is assuming that everybody's the same, but there's certain people
they're all different
that don't want to come along or don't,
you know that and that's why it takes time. You think you hire the right person, then you see their character. They're not about it, distracted, the bad seed, you got to get rid of them and just kind of figure out. It takes time. You hire somebody and then it just doesn't work out. They have their own agenda. They're more selfish. They're more manipulative. They're not about the team. They're about themselves.
1 in a million people are actually even trying to be leaders. Most people are managers, right?
Yeah.
But if you're a leader, you're going after the mission. And then the other part that I think people get wrong is that if you're going after a mission with a group of people, you become very close and they're your friends. And on the flip side of this, people say, oh, it's just business. Well, I don't find that genuine. If you have a group of people that are going after a mission and everybody's giving a piece of themselves, then you should care about each other and you should be friends. But the mission has to be the guiding light.
Yeah.
The leader's serving the mission, not the people. You need good people, but some people will come and go. And some people, could be right for it now and then something in their life changes. And then they're not.
Yeah.
And the idea that you're going to, that we're all going to sit around and sing Kumbaya is a joke.
Yeah.
Being a leader is hard. If your focus is to be liked and be a servant leader and to build consensus, you won't get very far.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I agree with that 100%. If you're in to be liked, you're in the wrong business. Like my mentor, we have about 1,000 people a week at our house for free. And you see when he has events, you see his leadership because you see how many people show up for free, and he'll have hundreds of people work for him for free. But like you said, he sticks to the mission. And again, like you said, people come and go. He knows. He goes, I get it. I don't take it personal. Again, sometimes he has to be stern with people. He'll show you love, but he's going to keep it real.
You do have to be selfless.
Yeah.
And you have to give.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big part of it. But you're selfless to the mission, and then you find other people that are selfless to the mission.
Yeah. That's why we say give wisely. You still got to be smart about it. Some people think that's why those are people pleasers. Like, you're a people pleaser, you're not a giver.
Yeah.
You got to give wisely. And so I always think that's key.
How do I give and be kind when I have already done that for 12 hours and yet another customer comes in? You have 2 choices of how to treat a customer, either with a frown or a smile. A smile requires you to use 3 muscles, while a frown requires 63. You decide, how many muscles do you want to use when you are tired?
I don't remember reading that.
But I mean, it's just a choice.
Yeah,
right?
it is.
Your attitude is a choice.
It is. You know what I mean?
What do you want to project?
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, remember why you're here? It's attitude. We always tell people it's usually an attitude problem. That's what you have. People say all this stuff like, no, it's an attitude problem, right? And so it's a choice. I mean, if you don't like people, then you don't like people. Get out of the people business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But if you want to be here, and then you got to learn, but also know how much you can handle. Like for me, being, a therapist and working with people, I know how much I can handle. And then there's times where, hey, I don't want to go there because I don't want to smile. So I'm just not going to go. Because if I go, I have to smile, unfortunately, because people are Fausto. So, it's a choice. But I always say, you really got to love people. If you don't, then don't do it.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy. People are difficult.
It's not easy.
You know how it is. Everyone, oh my gosh, I had someone the other day, you're cooking food while we're talking. I'm like, but yeah, I'm cooking for my family. Then I guess we shouldn't talk right now. And I'm like, dude, I'm like, oh, okay. All right. Just people, man, are funny. But you got to love them.
There's some exercises in here that I thought were really cool and maybe Maybe you could kind of walk me through your thoughts on them.
Mm-hmm.
So it says, when you go through these lists, pick 2 or 3 items in each group that may be a problem for you. So in group 1, would your friends and acquaintances think you have a problem in these areas? Sloth, envy, anger, greed, lust, gossip, hatred, fear.
Yeah, I think, something like that is something that for people to really look at, because I think your attitude and your behaviors will be motivated by those things if you struggle with them. So you look at this list, right? Some people will have a lot of that, and that will kind of dictate the way that you act and the way that you give and the way that you are. And so I think it's really important to look at, right? It's like the character aspect of you. Like, let's work on your character. So let's look on these things, because this is going to decide how you act. I always say, usually people's opinion on something is based on their experience of something. Mm-hmm. And, we're all respected to have our own opinion, but sometimes maybe you should work on something, because if it's not helping you and it's hurting you, then maybe we should look at that.
Yeah, we can develop biases and things that just don't serve us, or they don't serve us in relation to connecting with others.
Yeah. And, as a therapist, it's something I really had to practice. Because, anytime we get into something new, we become kind of too obsessive about it. When someone finds Jesus the first time, this is the only way, and they're very aggressive with it. Or, hey, I'm vegan. What are you eating? Ooh, you're eating meat, Chris? So I'll let you know. So I get to see things as they are, right? Like, okay, people are overly about it because it's new. And then it's just like, but understanding when I travel the world, like there's so many ways to do things, so many ways to believe in things, so many ways of moving things. So I think having that non-bias and going to every situation is really important. Now, obviously, it depends if it's business, if it's your personal life, right? If it's a stranger, how much you can handle of it. But I think it's important.
So then it says, group 2, would your friends and acquaintances think you have a problem in these areas? Drugs, alcohol, gambling, prescription drugs, smoking, workaholism.
Yeah.
Fundamentalism, intolerance, biased against other races, religions, or cultures. I'm definitely a workaholic.
Yeah.
That's definitely where I put my
focus
need as a kid.
What happens if you're not a workaholic? Let's say you take a break. Where does your mind go? What do you feel? What happens?
I usually find something else to do. Mm-hmm. So like during COVID, I wrote a book. Mm-hmm. So I find another way to work.
What happens if you don't? Have you tried that? Just kind of see, like, let's just not do anything.
It's not good for me. There was one time I took a year off and I woke up. Well, I just remember this very well. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. I've been up all night. Mm. I've got a glass of wine in my hand. I'm in my bathrobe and I'm painting.
Okay.
In my living room.
You got the image?
And I'm like, I probably need to find something to do. Because, one thing that I knew too is like a lot of my friends that had become alcoholics, they said the turning point was when they started drinking before 5 o'clock. Mm. So when they started drinking in the morning to recoup from the night before, that was the beginning of the end. And I was just holding that glass of wine going, this is the beginning of the end. Like... I need to be busier than this. Yeah. Like, it isn't, I'm not going to be Picasso.
Yeah, I think, it's kind of like that idea where some people love the retirement on the beach with the margarita. I look at that, I'm like, I'm going to kill myself if I do that. I can't. That sounds like hell.
I mean, I love to read and study and things like that, but there's an intention behind it. Like, I'm trying to learn a specific thing, and then that's how a lot of this library happened, is like, I'm trying to figure out a thing, and so I'm buying a bunch of books in that, subject.
And I'm the same way. Like when I want to learn how to, whatever it is, I want to learn about anything in life. Usually at first it was mental health, emotional stuff, regulation, and then, business. It's like, I want to read a specific thing. That's why I bought this book, so I can add that to my tool belt and then put it away. Yeah.
I probably don't do good with that. It's definitely a problem.
Do you think you have ADHD?
Oh, for sure.
Okay, well, that's where it stems from.
For sure.
Yeah, ADHD is...
Do you see I can't sit still here?
It's funny because to me, I feel like you're sitting still and I'm not.
Jeez. I'm always like doing something.
Because ADHD...
I was a drummer when I was younger too, so like just imagine in school. Like
you're always that person with pencils or something.
It made sense to me, but everybody else is like, man, you're annoying.
Well, that's why we say ADHD is a superpower, right? We have the ability to focus on something that we care about to the point where we'll figure it out. It's just not everything really catches our attention, which can be the problem sometimes, because they always say ADHD is we lack dopamine naturally. So that's why, like, when some people are like, look at the sun, I'm like, what? What do you mean look at the sun? Like, I don't get it. Look at this garden. I'm like, I don't know what's happening right now. This is boring to me. because they have normal dopamine levels, so they can feel for the little things. But for us, it's like, it's hard. So when we do find something we care about, good luck, getting us out of that.
We obsess.
So when used correctly, it's good. And also learning how to, let me ask you this. Have you learned how to navigate your ADHD? I know some people I know that have it and they struggle with their finances, their relationships, with anything in life. Like, what kind of helps you kind of like navigate it so it doesn't affect your life maybe negatively?
That's a really good question because I've never thought of it that way. I've always seen it as a superpower.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that it affects me negatively.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like when most people give up or most people get lazy,
Mm-hmm.
I'm on.
Mm.
The only time I saw it as something that was detrimental to me was in school, that I couldn't get good grades like everybody else because I couldn't concentrate.
What about your love life? Did you ever see it affect your love life, ADHD? I know, like, for me, my problem was, and maybe this is universal for people with ADHD, but I tend to have the hardest struggle caring about my partner. I can care about everybody else but my partner. The closer I get to my partner, the less I care about them emotionally. Not because I don't want to, it's just I can't focus anymore. So I struggle with date nights, I struggle with consistency, I struggle with communication. But with a stranger, time management's great, communication's great, my friends are great. And I noticed that that's a struggle with my ADHD at times.
I don't think I've ever experienced it like that. Like, I feel like I feel more like it's the other example that you gave, that when you find something you really connect with, I feel like I really attach, I guess.
Okay.
I'm also kind of a serial monogamous. Like, I have very long relationships and
me too.
put a lot of effort into them in that way. So I don't know. I guess I don't experience it like that.
Yeah, ADHD's funny.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, the holding still, and I know it all comes from trauma.
It is. Have you read Scattered Minds by Gabor Mate? It's probably the best book on ADHD I've ever read, because he really says it's childhood trauma that causes it. A kid finds his safe space in his head as a child because at home is not safe. So then we're adults. That's why we're always in our head, thinking, creative, whatever it is. We're always in la la land because that's our safe space. So it's just kind of like you said, it's just learning how to navigate it.
Did you used to daydream a lot when you were a kid?
All the time.
Did you talk to yourself?
All the time.
Yeah,
I was always a kid dreaming about superpowers, creating this, creating that.
Yeah.
That would be funny, this and that. So that's why, like, for me as a creative now, with like my YouTube channel or doing anything, is why I thrive in it. Because it's like, well, that's how my brain works naturally, to do stuff, to create. And that's why, like, in the therapy space, I stand out, because most therapists are not as creative like that. They're very serious and by the book. And I'm all like, let's just do something crazy for therapy right now. Let's go do something, And so it really helps with that.
When I'm writing or working, I like to walk. So I'll just get up and walk. I sometimes have my best ideas moving.
Okay.
Not sitting.
Yeah.
If I sit for too long, I go a little crazy. It was funny the other day, my chick, I was pacing. I forget what I was doing, but I started pacing. And we have like this, in our house, we have like this long kind of hallway. And I was going back and forth, and she kind of like jumped next to me. She goes, I want to see what this is like. And she like walks down and back with me, and then down and back. And she goes, I don't get it.
So that means you're dating someone not
made me
ADHD.
laugh so hard. I was like, yeah, it's okay.
And I think it's healthy for us when we date someone that they don't have ADHD.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want you to.
So funny. She's like, I don't get it. I don't understand. But for me, I don't know. It just works. I pace.
Yeah.
I've paced since I was a kid.
Yeah. I remember I had this one life coach, and when we take our calls, he goes, I'm just gonna let you know, I'm gonna walk around this whole time when you're talking. But I kind of like that. I was like, okay, thank you for telling me that, because he has ADHD. And you just see him walking in circles listening, and I'm like, I might try that next time.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna say that in my session. I'm gonna walk around you while you talk.
Yeah. In your experience with people with addiction and habits that are detrimental to their overall health, what is the commonality between the people that get help and recover and the people that don't?
Simple. It's just they don't want it.
So it's intentionality.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously, remember, the common denominator why we have addictions is trauma is always the common denominator, right? Every addict has trauma, because trauma disconnects you from the body. And we have a lack of connection problem. Addiction, so that's the common thing. But the common thing for people who get it and don't is they just don't want it enough. It's really that simple. The program of action. That's why they always say it's the hardest thing, right? Because people are like, well, if I pray enough, if I give them money, if I get them a car, if I get them the right rehab, and it's like, hey, if they don't want it, there's nothing you can do. That's why it's a very sad world to be a part of, because people are just dying left and right. And so that's literally what it is when it comes to the world of addicts that I work with, because I work with all types of people, but in that world, that's the common thing.
Yeah, makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So the big question, The Power of Giving, How Giving Back Enriches Us All by Azim, Jamal, and Harvey McKinnon. How did this change your life?
So the way that book changed my life is it just reminded me that giving is a superpower that I've always had. Because as a kid, I don't come from money. I have no connections, but I was always with pro skateboarders, famous DJs, going on tour, in music videos, just cool things, right? But I never understood why I was at these places. That book reminded me it's because you were a giver, and giving can make room for you to have these amazing experiences. Because people would rather help someone who's good than someone who has a degree at times. So it made me realize, whoa, that's how all that happened, huh? But why did anything good come out of it? Because you're unaware. You got to the level 1, but then you're drinking and using, so you never got to really, leverage that opportunity. So reading that book showed me that. And then that book, in my 7 years, what it did for me was it reassured me, just give. I met my mentor, give first. And what I started to see in my life was blessings after blessings, right? Working with celebrities, graduating college, getting flown around the world, being on podcasts, magazines, having crazy opportunities in my life, YouTube channels, getting famous on social media, like just crazy stuff, all good things, right? All just from giving. I always tell people, I just give. It's my reputation that makes room for me. I don't know anybody. I never did. I didn't come for money. I give, and people respect that, and they trust me. And so that book really just reassured me to remember, just give. Give first. And if you give first, things will happen. And all the good things in my life come from that. Everything.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
This was fun.
Yeah, I appreciate you. You're really good at having a conversation, because I could tell you're curious.
Very curious.
Yeah.
And also admire what you're doing. Like, if I can help you, outline a book, I think that, the more you're out there, the more people you're going to help.
Yeah, I would appreciate that.
And people need it. People need to understand that they're not alone.
Yeah.